Hey, Nathan, we just published a podcast bidding a fond farewell to a lot of cars that died this year, but we published that podcast right before the news came out that another car went farewell.
That is correct, and that is the vehicle directly behind me, the Jeep Renegade. Well, it's being canceled.
Yeah, and in this video, we're going to talk about Stellantis. What is Stellantis?
Stellantis is, former FCA, which was Fiat Chrysler. Essentially, it is a mix of what was left over from the Fiat Chrysler days, and it includes many French brands as well, creating one of the largest automakers in the world.
Yeah, so recently, well, not that recently anymore, basically Peugeot, and they said it, of course, they always say it's a merger, but basically purchased what was FCA, which was Sybaris. Which was
that was like a day. It didn't last very long.
Anyway, which was Mercedes for
Daimler
a while.
Chrysler, yeah, and then back to the Chrysler days.
So now, of course, the company is called Stellantis, which a lot of people are kind of scratching their heads about because it's such a funny name. It sounds like a drug company and not a car company.
Yeah, it's for treatment of certain types of ailments that might hurt you. Now, the reality is that the name, regardless of the name, it was terrible branding. Because nobody knows what it is. Even now, we screw it up all the time. But more importantly, it doesn't really show what they're all about. Sometimes a name really does. Fiat Chrysler, pretty obvious. This one, not so much.
So in this video, we're going to talk about all the Stellantis brands, and there are a lot of our favorites, and we're going to talk about what they're going to have left to sell come next year. So let's start with Jeep because, like we said, the news came out that they are no longer going to be building or selling the Renegade, which is a shame because, well, it's a good little off-roader.
It is. When it came out, and Roman and I were there, literally touching the very first model that came out when they did an introduction in Moab many years ago, and it's gone through many changes since then. We've had a connection with the vehicle. It is not perfect, to be fair. There were some issues with the transmission. There were some issues with the engine. It's very small and yet very capable off-road, decent mileage. These things were interesting vehicles, and unfortunately, the sales, which were quite good for a while, have dropped off, and I actually have a suspicion as to why, one of the reasons why it dropped off.
And it was also part of a shared platform with Fiat, isn't that right?
That is correct. And speaking of Fiat, we will be talking about its cousin that's also going away.
Yeah, so obviously that leaves Jeep with a lot of big SUVs to sell. If you take, I guess the Wrangler is a mid-size SUV.
Well, the Compass is still there, and the Compass, I think, is one of the reasons why this is disappearing.
So if you take the Wrangler and the Compass away, really Jeep has now 4 large SUVs to sell, right? They have the brand new or newish Grand Cherokee, the Grand Cherokee L.
Yeah.
They have the Wagoneer, and of course they have the Grand Wagoneer. And to me, those 4 are very hard to define because they kind of live in the same space.
They do, and a lot of people out there are really confused by the branding and the way they look and who they attract and also pricing. And frankly, all of those things are real issues, and we've noticed that, and hopefully they'll be able to get a handle of that in the near future.
And I don't mean to forget about the Gladiator, so I know all you Jeep fans.
Yeah, but the Gladiator is suffering right now with some sales issues as well, but I don't think they're going to get rid of it anytime soon. Of course, I say that now.
Well, it's got that lifespan, right? When a car, here's an interesting tip for you guys. If you're looking for a classic car, you will always, more likely than not, find that car in the very first year of production, because the very first year of production, that's when you sell the most. And then usually it slowly starts to kind of drop off until you get to a point where there's not a lot sold. And right now, the Gladiator is suffering from that. What was once new and exciting is now kind of oldish, old. And then, of course, it lives in a segment where there's a new Tacoma, there's a new Ranger, there's a new Frontier. And so now it's becoming
Colorado.
GMC, yeah, it's becoming the old man of that segment.
Yeah, it's almost the oldest one right now.
Yeah.
So moving on real quickly, because we've talked about this ad nauseum, and that is, of course, the Challenger and the Charger. They're going away as well. And even though we know that there are replacements coming, we don't have any further information on that.
All right, which begs the question, what does Dodge have left to sell?
They have 2 vehicles.
Okay.
They have the Hornet and the Durango, and that's it. And the Durango is really old. It's great. It's a good vehicle, very flexible, but frankly speaking, it's been around a long time.
Now, of course, with the muscle cars going away, they have shown an e-muscle car. The prototype for the Daytona, gosh, I can't remember the whole name. This thing had a long name.
Yeah, the Daytona EV electric wing banger. But that vehicle is still not official in terms of its final design, but there's no information about range, power, any of that, just a concept. But we do know that they're building platforms right now that will be going into the next generation Challenger, if it's going to be called a Challenger or is it going to be called a Charger. We still don't even know that for sure.
And the rumor is that perhaps the turbocharged Hurricane that is now in vehicles like the Grand Wagoneer
and soon to be in the
Ram might end up hopefully in the next version of the non-electric Charger and Challenger, which I think a lot of muscle car guys would be applauding if that were the case.
It's still remaining with some internal combustion. Speaking of another internal combustion vehicle that is going away
this week.
They're
building the last one in the 300C this week.
It is officially dead, and that is the 300C. That is going away. And you know how many vehicles that leaves Chrysler to sell? One.
The Pacifica.
That's it. Now, granted, the Pacifica, there are many different versions of it. I mean, they would argue, oh, wait a minute. We have the plug-in hybrid version. We have an all-wheel drive one. We have a front-wheel drive one. Very true. But it's the same van. So at the end of the day, you have one thing to sell, and that's it. For an entire, automaker, that's not a lot. You really need more than one. You need more than like 5, I think.
Now, Chrysler did bring back the 300 SRT with the Hemi, and that is also unfortunately dying. So I think the news is that they're building the last one either last week or as we speak. It's coming off the assembly line. But if you love your Charger, Challenger, or 300, and I'm putting those all together because they're based on the same chassis in essence. Get them now while the getting's good, because come next year, there ain't going to be any 2024s. Now, let's move on to another Stellantis brand, and you just brought up Fiat. What about the Fiat?
Okay, now this is the brother of the Renegade. So the platform for the Fiat 500X and the Jeep Renegade are the same platform. They share a lot of the same components. The Fiat, unfortunately, never really caught on. It wasn't a terrible vehicle, but it wasn't as off-road or rugged as the Renegade was, and at the same time, it just didn't quite fill that gap, and both price-wise and capability, it just wasn't as competitive as perhaps it should have been. But the worst part is, this is the last vehicle that Fiat has for sale in the United States, and it's going away right now.
But there's good news. Because there is a new Fiat 500e coming.
That's right. So if you go to alltfl.com, you're going to see several articles about the new Fiat 500e. And this is a vehicle that will compete directly with the Mini Cooper SE. I believe that's what it is, right? And
about 150 miles of range.
Ish, yeah.
And the first month, you can get it in any color as long as it's red.
As long as it's red. And right now it's around $32,500, but it's possible that I could drop that price, especially if nobody buys it, but also being that there'll be other versions available later on. This is like the launch edition that we're talking about right now. And that is coming on very soon, so that will replace this as the only vehicle Fiat sells in the United States. So
Fiat are gone.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
Yeah, seriously.
But it will play music, Nathan. You can play like Figaro, 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 Figaro out of the new Fiat 500e. If you
when
so
you guys
choose.
Clicked on this video, you did not realize you would have singing.
All right, here, hold on.
Oh, here we go. Well,
here you go. There you go. That's what that's for.
Okay.
That was a trombone. Sorry, guys. I'm playing with this new
dear God help us.
mixing board we got.
Guys, I wanted to know below, first of all, if you've owned a Stellantis product, a FCA product, if you want to call it that, what did you think? Are you sad about any of these going away? Are you happy about it? What do you think should serve in their place? Or perhaps for Fiat and for Chrysler, what else should they build to build up their fleet?
All right, Nathan. So basically, what we're running into is a situation where the Stellantis companies outside of Ram and perhaps Jeep have very little to sell, which has got to be rough on the dealers.
Well, very little that's profitable, that's for sure.
Once again, I don't think
here we go.
A lot of dealers are getting crocodile tears from their customers. But let me give you some suggestions. Okay. Let me give Stellantis some suggestions, and I'll go by brand. Okay. All right. So first of all, if you're listening to this, and you're probably not, but if you are Stellantis, please bring back the Panda.
The what?
The Panda. The Fiat Panda. You know, we never got it in the U.S. It's a small little 4-wheel drive. Unfortunately, if I remember, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure about this, I think the newest Panda in Europe is only front-wheel drive. I think they actually got rid of the 4-wheel drive.
They may have finally gotten rid of the 4-wheel drive. Yeah, they even had a little 100 horsepower version of it that was really slick and fun to drive. I drove that, so I know it. And yes, that would be cool to have, although I think, personally speaking, that Fiat should be the economy brand of
Panda.
Hear me out, of Stellantis, and because they're talking about all electrification, they should build the least expensive electrified vehicles in the United States. That would save the brand Fiat, I think, right then and there.
E-Panda.
E-Panda, yeah, absolutely. E-Panda would be fine. Yeah, you could put a little panda bear with a lightning bolt coming out of its bahootie. Who cares? But the point is that they need to do something like that in order to save that brand here in the United States. Now, what about Dodge? Dodge has some potential. The name brand is known, but right now the Hornet, not a very good representation of the brand, okay? And the Durango, ancient, so they need something else, right?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that. Let me keep thinking about that, but let me jump back to Jeep for a second.
Oh, okay.
All right, so as you know, in Europe, they have an electric Jeep called the Avenger.
Yeah, that needs to be here.
Yeah, it's selling really well.
Got Car of the Year by several magazines.
Yeah, so it doesn't seem a stretch to, I think in America, it's going to have to be all-wheel drive, so add another motor to it.
They're already talking about doing that, yeah.
And bring it. And then what do you think of the Recon concept, right? Which is kind of, so the Recon concept is kind of a more refined, more adult Wrangler, where you can actually remove the doors, but instead of it being so rugged and square jaws and off-road worthy, it's more on-road worthy. Do you think they should build that?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I do. They're building it. I mean, so that's inevitable. They are building it, but it also supposed to be as capable off-road as a Wrangler. They were saying that they're standing by that. But what they need to build, frankly, is some sort of compromise for people who want maybe a very inexpensive plug-in hybrid that can actually go off-road, not the Wrangler PHEV. Or the 4xe, which is still outrageously expensive. They need something that can bring in people. Also, they have overseas plug-in hybrid versions of the Compass. Why isn't it here? It needs to be here right now.
All right, now let's move back to Ram. I had a thought about it. What they should do is, and I can't think of the name of it right now to save my life. Maybe you know, but there is a small pickup truck that Stellantis sells in Europe and in, I think, South America as well.
Yeah, the Fiat Strada and some of those other ones.
I'm going to Google it. It's Strada means street, right? I don't think it's a Strada, but there is. Anyway, Stellantis does build a small pickup truck.
They do, and that's what it's called.
Okay, all right. Bring it here to compete with the Maverick. I think Ford has shown the way. I'm still amazed that what is it now? Almost 3 years later, nobody is competing in the compact pickup truck segment, except of course for your vehicle. But that's really kind of more of a lifestyle vehicle.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the Santa Cruz is lifestyle. So now Ram has announced that they are building a mid-sized truck, and that's all we've got. And they haven't officially announced it. The UAW has. So we have that. By the way, go to alltfl.com to find out information about that. There's a lot out there. However, there's no details about it. And also, that's a mid-sized truck. We're talking about a small truck, a compact truck that competes directly with the Ford Maverick. Right now, the Ford Maverick really it has no real competition sales-wise, and it needs to have that. And frankly, Stellantis could be the ones to do it.
And as you know, we were there at CES last year when Ram rolled out the Ram Revolution.
Yeah.
And then 3 months later, they basically, the only thing that they kept from that concept was, I think, the headlights. The mid-gate went away.
Yeah.
The front gate went away.
All that went away.
The seating for 6 went away.
Yep.
Just the headlights, unfortunately, were the only thing that was left. But, there are rumors swirling, and there is hope that they're going to actually do a pickup with a range extender.
No, it's not rumors. They actually acknowledged it.
Have they acknowledged it? Okay.
Yeah, they fully acknowledged it. We have videos on that. They're even using the Pentastar V6
That's right.
as a generator to extend the range on that thing. So that is the recharge. Recharge? I think that's what they call it. No, that's the Ram charger.
Okay.
Yes, and by all means, check that out on TFL Truck and alltfl.com. So that's out there as well. But let's wrap this up by saying that Stellantis right now is looking a little sketchy with getting rid of an awful lot of their vehicles, yet not having anything that we know of to replace them.
Yeah. So, and the stuff that they do have is far into the future, I fear. And so I'm sure that the powers that be have thought about these things, but we're hoping that by putting this out there into the internet, that maybe we can speed up some of this because some of my favorite brands are Jeep, Ram. These are brands that we have certainly championed over the last 14 years, and Stellantis, FCA, they've always been the underdogs, right? They've never had the same kind of money or ability to talent as Ford and GM have. So I always root for the underdogs. So I'm rooting for these guys, but I'm just a little concerned right now.
We're very concerned. So let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Hopefully we'll have some movement from the company in the very near future. And that's it for now. So guys, once again, let us know in the comments below what you think.
We'll see you guys next time. Ciao.
Bye.